Thanks for coming in. So tonight we've got the science of consistency and understanding high performance and low performance. Okay, so I think the first, what is this? Is this session 4? I think it's session 4. I think the first 3 weeks it's been pretty nutrition heavy. This is not about, well, I guess you can relate it to nutrition, but it's more about, it's a lot about really understanding consistency and how that applies to all areas of your life, so you can apply it to everything. There's 3 major things that I want to go through with you, like 3 concepts, and they all sort of relate to each other. And then I'll give you a bit of a wrap up at the end about how to implement it, basically. So we'll try and keep it under 30 minutes. And if you want to ask a question, just either yell out or throw it in. I'll open my little chat box if you want to prefer to write it in there. And then we'll have questions at the end. Ready to rock and roll? All right, let's go. So high performance versus low performance. I heard this, there's many definitions around this, but I heard this about 5 or 6 years ago from a tennis coach. I can't remember who it was, but it really, really stuck with me. It was one of those sort of light bulb moments. And he explained this is high performance. Someone who's high performance has a very small spread between their best performance and their worst performance. Someone who's low performance has a massive spread between their best and their worst, right? So before I go into it, like, so you can understand it, just have a think about people you know. Like, you might work with some people and then they're either rocks or diamonds. On a good day, they're really good. On a bad day, they're really bad, right? And those people generally don't progress forward, right? They're just A or B. A really great example of this is actually in tennis. I like following the tennis. It's like Nick Kyrgios versus Ash Barty. Like, brilliant Nick Kyrgios in all areas, right? When he's brilliant, trains really well on it. When he's bad, terrible on the court, terrible with his training. And that is low performance, right? Ash Barty, she's got a really small spread, okay? So her best day and her worst day isn't far off. She's super consistent, okay? There's another one I always think about when you think about this. It's, and Michael, you relate to this, is someone who's following like a marathon training plan, right? So you'll get 2 people, exactly the same program, and you'll get person A, they'll just be really consistent. They won't run their harder days like too hard. They won't run their slow days. They won't try and do extras, all that sort of stuff, but they won't miss a session. Versus someone who, the same person, the identical twin, on their tempo days, they're really trying to push really hard and trying to run faster than they ever have. Then they blow out and they miss a session, and then they do their long run and they try and make up for it and go a bit longer, and it's really all over the shop. Person A will always beat person B on marathon day, right? Always. You see it with people in nutrition all the time. So someone who's really low performance would be, eats like perfect, like, or even too perfect for 4 days, and then 3 days it goes out the window. Versus someone who's just like super consistent. They might do 90% of the day really good, and then 10% of it's really bad, okay? So why is it relevant? Why is it so important? Well, basically, the person that is high performance, okay, has the small spread, they're highly coachable. So that person in the workplace that's really consistent, turns up every day, does their work, and it might not be as outstanding on some days, you can teach them things and they get incrementally better. That person, Ash Barty, because she trains every day, she turns up, coach teaches her new things, she implements it, she goes up over time, right? Nick Kyrgios, you don't know what to do with it. Do you know what I mean? You don't know where to focus. You're spraying bullets everywhere, so that they rarely improve, okay? So that's why it's so important. I'll give you just a fitness example before I wrap up this first point on high performance, low performance. So, and you see this I see this quite often because we get people who come to the gym, and obviously that they need help progressing with their health and fitness, and they might be in a detrained state. And let's say there's two out of shape people, identical, and they enter the gym. The first example, that they choose to do the cross trainer, 20 minutes. Might not be the most clinically correct thing for them for their goal, but they choose to choose an exercise, do it 20 minutes a day, and that's all they do. They choose to then eat 3 servings of vegetables per day and just have a really consistent step count. Versus person B, who's super motivated, they smash themselves hard for 2 90-minute sessions in the week. They eat perfect for 4 days and then go off the rails on the other 3 days, and they're spraying steps all over the place, right? So there's no consistency about it. It's really hard to help person B and improve them, but person A, it's so simple. You just give them the next little bit, and over time, they're the people that rise to the top. Is that cool? Is that really understood? Yeah. So it's a good concept, right? And it ties into the next one. So anyone heard of Simon Sinek? He's got a couple of great books and all that sort of stuff. So this is directly from him. And when I heard this from him, it made a lot of sense. And so this next bit's about consistency. So we've identified from that high performance, low performance, it's all about being consistent, right? And then within consistency, there's 2 sort of drivers here, okay? And the 2 concept is consistency versus intensity, okay? And so I'll give you some examples. This is best sort of understood through examples. So you can't get really fit by training for 9 hours in a day, right? Once, but you can get super fit by just doing 20 minutes daily over time. Does that make sense? So the first one, it's about a really intense, long thing. So one, I'm going to do this X for a big duration. The second one, it's just a little increment every day. Okay, so it's being consistent. What are my other examples here? So I'll just give you some random ones, like going to the dentist. Okay, so just going for a full clean of your mouth. That's awesome every 6 months. But doing 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at the night, being consistent with it, that will trump that visit, right? Over time, always will. So why do we like intensity? Well, we like it because intensity is really measurable. Consistency is not very measurable, okay? And you see this in corporate land a lot, like there's something happens within a business and you get new management or whatever, and there's massive restructures and teams going here and here and putting them together, and to get an effect on your bottom line, an instant effect. So there's a lot of intensity, right? Versus keeping everything like you are, improving people incrementally over time. That's something that's really consistent, but it doesn't give you anything measurable at the time. And that's why we we gravitate towards intensity. With this example, I always think of like relationships as well. If I think about my wife, if I bought her flowers once a month, like $200 worth of flowers came in the door, yeah, that's going to give me a really big effect for that time, but it won't trump me just being caring and asking how she is in the morning and the night. And if I get myself a glass of water, get her one as well without asking. Those little things, they're not really measurable, but the consistency of it will trump the intensity of the big thing always, okay?
Lauren here to verify that, shall
we? Please don't ask her. Please don't ask my wife. Cool. So, yeah, it's really interesting to think about. And if you think about your life and all the areas, things that you do, I guarantee if you have a good think about it, there's at least some parts of your life where you gravitate towards intense effort, high intensity efforts, right? And if you're really analytical about it, they can be trumped by just smaller, more consistent efforts. So I'll give you two fitness ones, two related fitness ones. So the old, I need to get more mobile, I need to do more stretching, that sort of thing. Sorry, guys, let me just check that. Yeah, I thought I had someone waiting. They go to a 10-day yoga retreat, which is awesome. I'm not saying that's not great, but that's really intense. But that 10-day yoga retreat will not trump doing 10 minutes, even 5 minutes nightly forever, okay? No matter how good that yoga retreat is, it's not going to trump it, okay? Doing a little bit of mobility, a little bit of yoga, a little bit of SMR, okay, over time. It's really evident in strength training. You see this all the time with people. I want to get stronger. Cool. Okay. So person A, they just do their 1 or 2 45-minute strength sessions, and they're really consistent, and they do that forever. Versus person B, really gung-ho, they do 6 hours a week. We see it all the time. That's not a bad amount of volume, but it's so intense that in 3 months, they're sick of it. They can't follow the routine. They have 2 months off, right? And so they follow this cycle. Person A just overtakes them over time, right? So being consistent and not being intense is really, really critical. Cool? Is that a good one? And that wraps into my third and final point on this stuff. It's, okay, so we understand high performance, low performance, and what it is to be really consistent is to be high performance. And we understand about consistency, how to manipulate really good consistency, okay, and not be too intense. The third one is what I think wraps it all up, is the Pareto Principle. So I'm sure most of you guys have probably heard of it. I don't know his first name. He was an Italian bloke in the 1800s. Pareto, he was an economist, among other things, I think. And the first thing he discovered was that 80% of the wealth was held by 20% of the population, okay? And since that principle has been like proven like as a law, they call it the power law, among other things, okay? So why is that relevant here? I'll give you some examples first. So I like the sports one. So typically if you've got really great teams, or most teams, like say you've got a team of 10 in a sports team, that in that team of 10, there'll be 2 people that if they don't play, the team loses. If those 2 people play, the team wins. The same in business, right? So in teams, you'll get 20% of the people in that team will drive 80% of the result, okay? And it can be the flip too. You might have 20% of the lower end who pull down the 80%, okay? So it works both ways. For fat loss, okay? So 80% of your result will be down to 20% of your nutritional habits. Not the plan, not anything else, 20% of what you're doing. So you could have the most perfect plan you've ever had, and you follow it, X, Y, and Z, but you might, overeat on 3 days or do something else, right? That will drive 80% of the result. So it's better off not sticking to the plan and working on your 20%, okay? So why is this so relevant? Okay, so our health are driven by the consistency of our habits, okay? And so what tends to happen is that with health and fitness, people get stuck. People get stuck all the time, right? So something's not going your way, it's not working, you're not getting the outcome that you desire, okay? So whether it's like fitness outcome, body composition, strength outcome, you're not there, right? At that point, what happens in your mind? A little bit of shiny object syndrome. You see, you're doing like Michael's on a marathon program. He's not getting what he wants. He talks to his mate and they're running a different program. He just decides, okay, so I'm going to try a new program. So I'm going to try the new thing will fix it, right? Instead of having a look at his consistency of how he's training, he immediately thinks the plan's broken. I'm going to just go to a new plan, right? And the key with that is when you're going to be hyper analytical of the 20% that's driving your inconsistency with whatever plan you're trying to follow. You see this I reckon it's most evident in my world, in the health and fitness field, with dieting. Okay, so you might be drawn to being a vegetarian for a while. Awesome, right? And you follow the plan somewhat. You deviate somewhat. You're not getting the result that you want. You immediately think, okay, being a vegetarian is not working for me as an outcome. I'm just going to switch plans. I'm going to try paleo. I'm going to try low carb. I'm going to try X, Y, and Z. The learning is finding in the 20% of why you're being inconsistent. So that will drive 80% of the results. So regardless of what plan you stick to, if you don't address that, you're going to get the same outcome. Okay, so it's really, really critical. So for success, honestly identifying your 20% and working on that before deciding to change your program is critical. Cool. Everyone's still with me? Still awake? Yep. All right. So they're my three things. So how do we implement it? Okay. So I think now you understand that the key to actually implementation is being unemotional and having brutal self-evaluation of yourself and your habits. Okay. And so the first one where you need to have good self-assessment is in your consistency. So I love the line that consistency is king, right? And so what you need to find is, where are you being really, really consistent in what you're doing? Okay, so you've got an idea of what you should be doing. Like, identify the things you might be really good at, doing your steps and doing your morning cardio. That's awesome, right? So you're being really consistent there already. How can you improve it? How can you step it a little bit better? Okay, how can you improve those things? The second one is finding out where you are being really inconsistent or having really low performance. Okay, and there's some really good questions you need to ask yourself about those areas. Okay, so first one is, why am I being inconsistent? Okay, so what's driving the inconsistency? So this is super deep, so I won't go right into it, but I'll just give you a little example. So just say you struggle on a Friday night. So you struggle for nutrition compliance on a Friday night, like I do, okay? And so you're driving home, getting the door, and as soon as you get in the door, all you want to do is drink beers and eat pizza, right? That's how I feel every Friday night as soon as I get in, right? So if I'm really analytical about that, what is driving that? Is it because, what is it about that how is it serving me? And if I'm thinking about myself right now, it's about relaxation. That for me, when I do that, it relaxes me. I've finished the week, I'm in a relaxed state. Okay, cool. So I want to be relaxed. So what is another way before I could get home to be relaxed, right? And you don't have to try and do this forever, but just try it once to see if it changes anything. So I might, what could I do on the way home? Say I book a 30-minute float tank, right? In those little isolation tanks, float, relax. So stop at Carrying Barn in my house. There's one up there, and jump into that for 30 minutes. And then I enter my house. Do I feel the need for pizza and beer after that, right? And then you've identified the why that's driving it, okay? If you just do that once, then you can find out a routine, how to change it, okay? Cool. You can move that from a low performance area to a high performance area. Cool. The second one, in implementation, I like this concept of like flow, don't force. Okay, flow, don't force. So aim to make little changes. Okay, don't aim to make really big changes. So wherever you're at with whatever you're thinking about right now, is don't do this major shift where you have to force a big change. Okay, so picking like the low-hanging fruit, the path of least resistance of change is critical. And if you think about it, humans are terrible at this when they're trying to change. We always change things on it, like I'm gonna start a new program on Monday. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, that's all. I love that. That's great, but it rarely works. Okay, because the resistance is so high. Compliance, you can only comply for so long, and that ends up being in low performance. Okay, so like a good nutrition example, instead of trying to follow a completely new diet, just focus on eating the right amount of protein for you every day. Try that for a week, right? If you can do it for a week, well, then look at your carbohydrate level, right? So just try and eat the right amount of carbohydrate for a week, or the right calories, or whatever it is, or eat more vegetables for a week. So that will increase your performance. So remember, your spread will become smaller and you'll be able to build over time. So flow, don't force. Third one of my 4 tips is Marta, like this is her favorite one, is progress, not perfection. Marta, you love that one. So heaps of people throw that one out. You hear it everywhere, but why is it relevant? It's to do, when I hear that, I think about goal setting, right? And I like having goals. I think goals are great. It's great to have somewhere to focus and whatever, but it's often at the detriment to the process. And this is really evident in, I always, the example I always think of is, weight loss challenge. So I've been doing like fitness for a fair while and have in various gyms, like there's always a challenge, and for a lot of years they were weight loss challenges, and they still go around, and it's really a big insight into human behavior. And you get people so focused on losing their 10 kilos in 10 weeks or whatever it is, like they're hyper focused and they're committed to it, right? And they're driven, and that's awesome. I love that. But what they do is so high performance, low performance. They train really hard, they diet really hard, and they stuff it all up, and then they go really hard again and whatever, and they often get the result. They often do, just through willpower. But those people always end up putting on that weight and more at the end of it, right? Always. I don't know an example in my experience that hasn't, right? Versus someone who, even though they've got this goal, a sideline goal, but they feel they get joy and pleasure and reward from how well they follow the health process in weight loss, right? If I think about an example for myself, like I was super goal driven in my 20s, and I think that was a really good thing. It taught me a lot of things, but to be honest, in my late 30s and 40s, I spent a lot of time actually rewiring myself, because the cost that gave me was not worth the outcomes that it gave me, if that makes sense. And it drove me to be really high performance and low performance in a lot of areas of my life. So it impacted a lot of things. So progress, not perfection. If you can shift your mindset that way, that'd be really awesome. And the last one, I think this is a really good point to finish on. It's this idea that if you're thinking about your habits and what's actually driving results in your life, like regardless, not health, fitness, everything, right? I forget who told me this. It wasn't, I think it was maybe a client or something years ago, but they said that the real habits, the real you, like the inside, not the exterior, what everyone sees, are the things you do when no one's watching. So how you eat when you don't have a trainer checking your food diary, you're seeing a nutritionist, or you're not in a social setting, are your real habits. When you're at home by yourself and no one's watching, you're not recording it for someone, you're not trying to, that's you, right? That's the real you. How you train by yourself when no one's keeping you accountable is your real training habit. And you can apply this to all areas of your life, like what you put into your head. Like, so when you're at home by yourself, and what your default is, if it's getting on Daily Mail and catching up all that stuff, that's cool. Or do you actually looking at stuff that's inspiring to you or growing you or whatever, relaxing you in a different way? That's the real you. So if you can understand what the real you is, not the you that you present when you're with your trainer or you're with your friends or whatever, and deep dive into those and understand what your 20% is, 80%, and where you're inconsistent, low performance and have got high performance habits, that's really, really insightful too. Cool. So that's all I got for tonight, guys. Any questions on all of that? Come on, Marto, give me something. Were you at the gym at the moment? Where are you?
At the bar at work.
You're at work. Oh, that's a bar. Good on you.
Our bar. I think no, it's not a question. I think we've been talking about this weekly now for at least 8 weeks during lockdown. And you asked a question around why are people being more successful this round than they have before in terms of holding themselves accountable. So I've been doing a bit of thinking on that for you.
Good.
I think that it's just the world of Marto, by the way. I'm not professing here to be a professor, but I think you talk about observable behaviours and, you know, what people do and the actions people see. And that's what you see me each week do and present to you. But then what I think has shifted this time around, given the circumstances we are in relation to COVID, is the mindsets are changed. So our thoughts and feelings driving behaviours around holding yourselves accountable are changing because we've had to change a lot of our mindsets in the current environment that we're in. So whatever's driving our current thoughts and feelings that drive our current behaviours from the past is changing to what will drive new behaviours and mindsets, which will then drive how people will behave differently in relation to their practices. And that's why I think you're seeing better results this time around. Because we've all had to change our mindsets about the way.
That's interesting. So just to give everyone some context, so I obviously train Emma, and we do spreadsheets. So we do like a tracker training and the steps and the nutrition and all that sort of stuff. And to give you some understanding, I feel for the clients I do that with, which is probably about 10 people, this time during this lockdown, there's been a real increase in adherence, and I don't really understand why. Like, that's probably right, Marto. It's probably because there is uncertainty and people have to be okay with change, or there's something there. It's probably a psychological.
I think it's a mindset change. So we've all had to shift and wax and wane and whatever we're doing. We don't like it. We're living with it, and that's forcing new behaviours and new thoughts and new feelings. And that's why I believe, for me personally, is better compliance, because put it out there, don't like tracking myself, do not like weighing myself, do not like tracking my alcohol intake, but it's working this time. For the first time actually in 3 years that I've been at Rush Case Health.
That's not true. You're doing
That's
well.
awesome.
There is the silver lining.
Yeah.
Good.
Actually, I was going to ask a question, Nick. Can you tell the people who are going to be the, the consistent ones and the smash it out and lose? I mean, you've been watching people now and training people for a decade or so. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you meet us, or
you can tell within.
And how do you tell?
You can tell within the first. You probably need a week, because unless you know them beforehand, like I could tell of all my mates who would be able to comply or not. But yeah, it's pretty evident. It's pretty evident within a week for sure. And it's like, because whenever you start, there's high motivation, right? And high motivation, people, if they're motivated enough, will do crazy things. Do you know what I mean? So there's always an extra output at the start. But the people who are going to have that low spread, they're just not. They're often people who are doing it for their drive is more health related. Like they're coming from a place of like, yeah, I want to lose weight, yeah, I want to get fit and all that sort of stuff. But there's innate, like, it's not like versus the girl who's getting ready to get married. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this specific goal that I've got to get to. And so you pick up on that. That's probably the mindset that you identify really quickly. You try and coach it, like, but it's like Emma. Like I've been talking about this stuff with Emma for 3 years, and we've got results, right? But it's gone. We've been high performance, low performance, like over those 3 years. But she's been high performance now for 8 or 9 weeks. It's the most consistent she's been, but nothing's changed between us. We've had these conversations heaps and heaps, but something's changed in her head. So it's people are capable of doing it. It's just when you get them along the line, like some people just have the realization that I don't know, is it an external realization or an internal realization that what I'm doing, my current, is just not working, and a new thing's not going to fix it. It's something about me that I've got to fix. And so I don't know, everyone gets to that point a different way. Do you know what I mean? Some people, you can coach it into them after a couple of goes. Some people it takes years. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but you can definitely see it. You always see it in the within the first week for sure.